Hello and welcome back to Games Embassy with the Ambassadors of Gaming. I'm one of your two hosts, Ambassador Chris.
And I am Ambassador Michael.
And we have news about stuff. Mike, how are you today?
I am actually well. I've been working a new job, so that's been fun to balance work life. I had 2 days off this week, and by off, I mean I didn't have to work for fucking 12 hours straight. So that was fun.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah, I got to not want to, degrade my mental status and just go insane. So that was fantastic. But the good news is I put out 3 videos last week. So
Oh, there you go.
Anyways.
Well, I'm great. Thanks for asking.
Oh, well, I'm glad.
Finals week. I lost my train of thought. I'm great. Finals week is upon me. I have a final tomorrow, but I think I'm going to be okay. But I'm a busy week, so this will probably be the only enjoyable thing I do for at least until Friday. So we have a whole bunch of news. Not a whole bunch, but some good nuggets. Anyway, as always, Mike, why don't you take us to our plug?
Yes, the plug, the one that quite literally keeps the show plugged in and keep going. We have a Patreon.
That was a stupid pun, but continue.
Yes. We have a Patreon, so if you would like to continue to help grow this show, support this show, and so that I may pay our guests and myself, and maybe Chris if I feel like it, instead of holding him ransom.
Oh, thanks.
You could do so in a nice exchange over at Patreon, where you get some exclusive content. You can get your questions read on the show if you would like, and you get early access to the show, depending on the tier that you choose. So if you would like to support us there, you can. I think they're very reasonably priced. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Please help if you can. If not, we appreciate you just being here and listening.
Yeah, we appreciate your viewership and ear listening ship. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into our updates. So, of course, speculation of something at Metal Gear Solid related is rising. Singer and actress Donna Burke has taken to Twitter to announce a, quote, secret project, end quote, that is, quote, for the fans, coming soon, end quote. Burke is known for working on the Metal Gear Solid franchise, and as we've seen previously, Konami might not be afraid to dip its toes back into that gaming water.
Excuse me. The free games for May this year have been revealed. For PS4 PlayStation Plus users, you will receive Overcooked and Edith Finch, of course, if you redeem them. Xbox Live Gold members will receive Marooners on Xbox One, Earth Defense Force Insect Armageddon on 360 and Xbox One through backwards compatibility, The Golf Club 2019 on Xbox One, and Comic Jumper on 360 and also through backwards compatibility on Xbox One. As a reminder, you only get 2 PlayStation free games every month now because Sony decided to support for PS3 and Vita. So,
Dragon Age 4 has become BioWare's next big focus, and that can kind of be an issue, which we will touch on in just a moment. Team at BioWare is moving over to start work on Dragon Age 4, as has been previously discussed. What's interesting to note is that Mark Dara, Michael Gamble, and Jonathan Warner, all people who had a significant impact on Anthem and actually getting it to where it needed to be released, if you can even argue it ever got there, are now working on Dragon Age 4. As for Anthem, Chad Robertson and Ben Irving are now leading the game's post-launch and working on its content, patches, and updates. Anthem has moved around its roadmap due to the quality of Anthem and focusing on getting the game stable before adding new content. Before we move on to the next point, I just wanted to say that Dragon Age 4 is also being made on top of Anthem, basically.
Yeah, it's using Anthem's
considering
foundation.
Yeah, and considering Anthem's, I mean, when it comes to foundations, I'd rather build a house on an Indian burial ground.
Yeah.
So
honestly,
I don't think that's good news, and also it's very concerning because basically Anthem had to push back, like we just said, Anthem had to push back its plans for its DLC and for its upcoming content because they just can't get the game playable. They still are just fixing. They're still trying. Just tying loose ends.
Yep.
Which is a real shame, and it has me very concerned for Dragon Age.
Yeah.
So, but well, I don't want to dwell on this too long. Mike, go ahead and take us to our next point.
This one is actually might be a point of discussion, as many have seen. So Sonic will get a redesign for his new movie, not a redesign that we already saw. Last week, the trailer officially revealed what Sonic would look like in his live-action movie. The backlash to his design has been pretty straightforward this entire time, but it really heated up when fans saw him in his entirety and realized the images we have been teased with were accurate. Director Jeff Fowler said in a tweet, quote, "Thank you for the support and the criticism. The message is loud and clear. You aren't happy with the design and you want changes. It's going to happen. Everyone at Paramount and Sega are fully committed to making this character the best he can be. Hashtag Sonic movie, hashtag gotta fix fast." End quote.
I like that. I like that pun. Just one thing I want to say on this. I'm not a fan of what I've seen so far, except for, of course, for Jim Carrey. We've all seen the memes of Jim Carrey having extreme back pain because he's carrying the whole Sonic movie on his back.
Right.
And what I've seen that I really didn't like is that I guess he's an alien now.
Yeah.
If you watch the trailer, he's an alien.
He references your planet.
Yeah, he's an alien now. I guess his powers are based on electricity now, which I don't think was ever a thing.
He's more akin to the Flash than he is just an abnormally fast hedgehog.
And on top of that, we're also, while we're talking about the Flash, we're going to throw a little bit of Doctor Strange in there, as rings now are the Sonic rings are now portals, I guess.
Yeah, and the way they did it was super weird because at least you could have made some weird in my mind, you could have made a weird correlation between him running in a circle and creating a portal versus him just having a ring that becomes a portal. And it's not even like he throws the ring opens up and turns into a portal. It's like he just like throws a ring and it just like burns a hole in reality. Like,
yeah, that's stupid.
It's so yeah, there's issues we have with this trailer. I didn't want to dwell on it too long, but I put it at the end of updates specifically so we could have a little discussion because we haven't talked about it. And regarding the design, the more I look at it, the more I'm like, I don't think I'd hate this as much if like he didn't look like a man in a Sonic costume. Do you know what I mean? Like when you look at him, he looks like a man in a Sonic costume instead of just being Sonic. Like when you look at the side by side, I think Eurogamer did it. There were a couple of renders where people made him in his more traditional design while still giving him that CG look, and he looked way better. And I think it's the legs. I think it's his weird Sonic body that grotesques me, if I must be honest.
Yeah, I think this gotta fix fast mentality goes way beyond just Sonic's design. And I'm going to end it on that.
Yeah.
So now, let's get to the news, things we're going to discuss. The first story we've actually got up is a pretty big one. And we'll try not to dwell too long on it because things like this, you can get into controversies and they can get very opinionated and this and that. So I'm just going to go ahead and do it. Riot Games right now is dealing with internal riots, which is, I'm not sure if you meant that as a pun, but it's a pretty good pun.
I did.
If you're not aware, Riot Games, the developer of the huge big deal game League of Legends, is being accused of sexism. Several months ago, 5 current and former employees of Riot filed lawsuits against the developer, alleging that it has sexist workplace culture. Riot filed a motion recently to have 2 of its cases against them moved to private arbitration, meaning there is no jury or no judge, and it's much more likely the employees will lose their case. Riot's lawyer states that the employees waive their rights to a jury trial upon signing arbitration agreements upon being hired, which is pretty crappy.
Yeah.
Employees had planned a walkout on May 6th to show their disappointment in their leadership and the mixed messages they feel they have been receiving. According to Kotaku's source, quote, this article comes from before I even talk about it, a really well done article by Cecilia. I'm sorry if I say this last name wrong. D'Anastasio,
That
I
sounds about
believe.
right.
A very well done article, very well written. It's very factual, which I appreciate. Especially in these hard issues where sometimes people will immediately go, oh, it's another story about abuse of women or this or that or women in the workplace. I appreciate that they, it's taken very seriously, which so good on Kotaku. What is it with Kotaku's writers being so on point? But anyway, according to our Kotaku source, quote, leadership consistently promised transparency / actions to be taken and then did not deliver on that promise. Kotaku's most recent end quote. Kotaku's most recent article about forced arbitration finally lit the spark, and some folks decided to take action. Riot responded to Kotaku in an email saying, quote, we're proud of our colleagues for standing up for what they believe in. We always want rioters to have the opportunity to be heard, so we're sitting down today to listen to their opinions and learn more about their perspectives on arbitration. We will also be discussing this topic during our bi-weekly all-community town hall meeting on Thursday. Both are important forums for us to discuss our current policy and listen to feedback, which are important parts of evaluating all of our procedures and policies, including those related to arbitration, end quote. Riot has since put out several statements regarding its future plans. First of which, the company will roll out 13 specific commitments to improving its culture within the next 90 days. New hire employees will receive the option to opt out of forced arbitration, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as its current lawsuits are over, Riot says it will, quote, commit to having a firm answer around explaining the scope and extending the opt-out for all rioters. They went on to say, quote, we are facing a complicated situation with no perfect solution, so arriving at a decision has not been easy. We are working diligently to resolve all ongoing litigation so that we can quickly take steps toward a solution that make rioters feel good about it. End quote.
Mm-hmm.
A lot to discuss here. I think that Mike will put this article in the description. I think it's a very good article.
Yeah. All sources are in the description.
It's very disappointing, to be honest.
Agreed.
I think disappointing.
Go ahead. You make your points.
No, please. I just said the whole thing. You go first.
Okay. So the specific thing I want to point out is League of Legends is a very, very successful and popular game. It has made Riot a lot of money. And those two specific lawsuits that we were talking about that got forced to arbitration were not just sexual harassment lawsuits. They were specifically lawsuits in regards to the California Equal Pay Act. The people that were suing, the women that were suing, were claiming in their lawsuit that they were not being paid equally to the male counterparts. And so obviously, one, that's just not legal. You can't do that in any of the 50 states, though some have tried. And then my issue is just in this end quote. I just want to go back through it so I can make my point. We're facing a complicated situation with no perfect solution, so arriving at a decision has not been easy. Maybe for your company, yes, in terms of how your company will handle things, but it's pretty straightforward in how you should pay people and whether or not you should respect them, in my opinion. I don't think there's any real way for you to be like, should I respect this person regardless of who they are on the outside? No, I should just respect them for their character and who they are. Like, it's frustrating.
Yes, it is frustrating. It's another wage gap issue,
right?
Unfortunately, and as much as some people like to pretend the wage gap doesn't exist, we have proof right here. This is just an example of it, and it's really a shame because I feel like in the last few years that I thought the gaming community at least got way better when it came to not exactly thinking of it as just something men do when they're not working.
Yeah. It's very strange because I'll try to avoid all political commentary because I don't think it's necessary.
Please do.
But societally, we're at a point where we're ripping the Band-Aid off on a lot of things, and we're just actually dealing with the problems that we've let fester for a very long time.
It's a very good way to put it.
I think this is just one of those issues where it's like we have to have these conversations and discussions, and we have to make a decision on who we want to be as a society. And I think that's why we're arguing so much, is because we have a lot of people who want to keep the status quo, and we have a lot of people who don't.
More specifically, I feel like it's one of those things where you go to someone and they go, well, I don't have a problem with it. I just don't like being stuck in the middle of it. It's not so much that people are against the change. It's people are disliking everything that basically gets everything being in flux before something new is settled on. Do you know what I mean? It's the same argument where they have people people say they're for women's rights, but actually do nothing for women's rights, kind of thing. It's the same thing.
Yeah. I can
this
understand
article. This article is a really good read. It goes through a whole bunch of points. Specifically, one really good point I like was that a woman made a proposal in a board meeting about something, I assume for the game, and she was shot down apparently almost immediately. Mm-hmm. And she had her male coworker just a few weeks later. She had her male coworker give the exact same proposal.
Yeah.
And apparently they were like, oh, this is great. Like, this is such a good idea. And apparently the guy got like really embarrassed because it basically just proved their point.
Right.
Also, just little things you see in high school or a college frat, as they put it in the article, passing around lists of like, would you do this female employee? Would you ever call her back, kind of thing? It's really toxic. Yeah,
that's kind of gross. Like,
yeah.
Come on, you're supposed to be a fucking adult. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
if that were to happen here, hypothetically, right? Let's just say that were to happen here. Every person in my mind that was a part of that, you would have been gone. That's how I handle stuff like this. I'd have been like, no, you're all gone. I don't care.
Yeah, but the article goes very deep that it's a bro culture, and like I said, at one point they refer to it as being almost out of a college frat.
Yeah, that's the big comparison they make, and that's the comparison that a lot of women have made in a lot of industries, tech specifically, because how do I put this? I don't want to offend anybody who may be in tech, but there are a large swath of men that have been attracted to tech that were not necessarily, I don't know, they were picked on, they were bullied, stuff like that. And then when they get into a position of power, they become, the exact person that they hated. And they take advantage of people. Oh,
you're thinking that they're liking I know what you're saying.
Yeah, the bullied becomes the bully, stuff like that,
Yeah.
You see that a lot.
I guess I could see that. Also, some of the stuff in this article, I just want to go back to it real quick. Some of it was just condescending. We have at some point in here, aside from just being outwardly offensive, just very condescending. One person talks about how a male employee basically came up to them and was like, it must be really hard working in a place with all men when you're so cute. Like, that's kind of inappropriate. And then on top of that, apparently in a meeting of some sort, someone commented, man, your husband and kids must really miss you when you're at work. Like, that's super condescending. That's so condescending.
People are like super, these kind of comments by these kind of men is very ignorant. And don't get me wrong, I've heard it from other people. I've seen it. So like, it exists. I know for a fact this exists, and I'm sure other people have dealt with it as well. And it's just weird. It's just like weird. Just don't do that. Just don't make assumptions about people and be like weird about it. Just like, why can't you just leave people the fuck alone? Like, it's not any of your business, honestly.
Yeah. Amen. But before we dwell too much on this, we're going to move on to the next piece of news. But definitely a great article. Check it out.
Yeah, please.
Very good article. Very good read. Yep.
So, the rest of this episode's a lot lighter, but I felt we needed to discuss that. And we didn't have enough information last week. And thankfully, because we waited, we got Riot's response. So we shouldn't have to cover that anymore unless something comes up. But I'm going to move forward. So, the headline for this one is kind of inaccurate, but I'm going to go with it anyways. Microsoft, the solitaire game, designed for their computers, has been inducted into the World Video Game Hall of Fame. The World Video Game Hall of Fame has announced its 2019 inductees. I'm not sure. Probably because it was quite popular. Like, a lot of people like that. You have to remember, this was before everybody had stable internet. So, like, some people bought computers and just played games on them and didn't even have the internet. Like, it was a weird time.
You always see people playing solitaire. I played Microsoft Solitaire growing up.
Right, exactly. So there were 4 inductees, 3 of which you'll know and 1 which you may not. Colossal Cave Adventure on the Commodore 64, a system basically no one freaking owned. Microsoft Solitaire, Mortal Kombat, the original, and Super Mario Kart on the SNES. So I think those are all pretty solid games. I don't know about Colossal Cave Adventure. It has to be pretty phenomenal if it was on the Commodore 64 and got inducted. So I would assume it's quite an intriguing game. However, I would agree that all 3 of those other games have probably had a very significant impact on games in general. I'm not saying Solitaire's like
definitely
whatever, but like millions of people have probably played that version of Solitaire. And then Mortal Kombat and Super Mario Kart changed the game. So,
Oh, yeah.
Yep, that's it. That's it on that. So unless you have any,
I was gonna say there's not really much for us to discuss on that one.
I just thought
that should have been
cool.
an update, Mike.
I thought it was cool that I didn't realize there was a Video Game Hall of Fame.
Of course there is.
So, I mean, I had assumed, but I didn't know for sure. Now I know for sure. So I will probably keep that as a yearly update for you all going forward, because I think that's cool.
Oh, shit. Great. I will. Are you breaking stuff?
No, I poured too much hot chocolate in my cup earlier, and it overflowed, and it got stuck to the plate I put it on so that it would not overfill everywhere.
Well, at least you were half smart. So, Epic has acquired Psyonix. If you are unaware, Psyonix is the developer behind Rocket League. Rocket League is the game that won't quit. Totally ironic. My friend and I actually picked up this game last night, before I even read the script, last night, for the first time in like 6 months, and we loved it. It was still just as fun as we remember it to be. It's really fun. But of course, people aren't happy about it because it has the name Epic in it. So, Epic and Psyonix announced the acquisition earlier this week, to many PC users' dismay. Following the announcement, there was a confusion as to how Rocket League will be handled on Steam. Apparently, as of right now, the gaming community on Steam is being really professional about it. All they're doing is review bombing it. It's pretty great.
Yeah.
Epic's main competitor, which is Epic's main competitor in the PC marketplace, Steam. The original statement was, quote, the PC version of Rocket League will come to the Epic Games Store late 2019. In the meantime, it will continue to be available for purchase on Steam. Thereafter, it will continue to be supported on Steam for all existing purchasers. Epic, end quote. Epic put another statement out afterwards saying, quote, we are continuing to sell Rocket League on Steam and have not yet announced plans to stop selling the game there. Rocket League remains available for new purchases on Steam, and long-term plans will be announced in the future. Of course, everyone's super upset about this. Oh, hang on. I messed up the script. Mike, fix it.
Damn, dude, you really, I don't know what you did, but you really, really just botched whatever you were doing.
There we go.
I
was going to say, I must have hit a button. My bad.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
you must have hit, I don't know what you did. You messed my stuff up.
There we go.
Jesus Lord.
I'm sorry.
Right. It's all right. Go ahead.
Yeah, you fixed it. So, people are, of course, upset about this. The Epic Games Store is a force to be reckoned with.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, and we've talked about this before, so I'm only going to say it really quick. Console people have been dealing with this forever. I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Yeah.
If you want to play a game bad enough and it's exclusive to some place, you go to that place to play it. If not, it must not be as important to you to play as you think.
Yeah.
Now the PC people are experiencing that. The Epic Games Store came out, and I think it's personally something good. It made Steam finally update its horrible software not too long ago. because now they actually have some competition.
Yeah.
And Steam, and also they're just paying, Epic Games is paying the developers way more.
Right.
Or
That's
allowing
true.
them to get paid way more.
The split is it's like an 18% difference, I think. Between Steam and Epic. Not to offshoot it, but just to contribute to the conversation. I don't know if you saw, but Valve announced its VR headset, and I think it's sold out now.
Yeah, it is. It sold out in 30 minutes.
Yeah, it was insane, and it was like $1,000. So like they're in my mind, these two companies are handling things in two very different ways. Valve has long talked about having VR games, and I'm pretty sure it was Jim Sterling who made this point. If it wasn't Jim Sterling, it was Colin Moriarty. He does his own podcast. Those are the big gaming people I watch. But they made the point that Valve and Steam have IP, as Epic does. Now, they have even more IP. But Valve has a lot of IP, and it had a lot of talented developers and a lot of talented people at one point, so it knew how to make games. All it really has to do to compete with Epic is just make games again. That's clearly what Epic's doing. Like, they have Fortnite.
But it's not just that, it's the money too. It's the money that they're taking. From a whole bunch of different sources I've been reading, that a 30-70 split from a publisher is madness.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's the same with publishers. If you were to be an indie dev or something, I'm sure that is very high, but it depends on the industry that you're in. If you're in the recording, like music industry, your split with your record label is 93-7. You get 7%. So
I'm talking about in this industry. This industry, it's only been 70-30. And now someone comes along and they're like, hey,
I'll give you more.
We're offering something way more competitive. And of course, I'm not going to get into it. I'm just saying, if you want to play the game bad enough, and what they're saying here, just in case you can't read through the lines because you're so upset that it's going to be on Epic Games, is that eventually, most likely, Steam will no longer be selling Rocket League. Yeah. However, it will be continually supported. It will get the game updates.
Yeah.
It'll get the new crates. You'll still be able to play online with everyone that has the game on Steam. It just will no longer, probably at some point, be sold on Steam.
Yeah, that's my assumption here. Because it makes sense. You're not going to see this very often because of the way things work out, but this is going to be interesting because this is very similar to how the Outer Worlds is going to be handled. The Outer Worlds, I don't know if you remember, is being made by Obsidian, who got bought out by Microsoft.
Yeah, the people that made the good
looking Fallout. Yeah, and so Microsoft has to give Sony part of that money split. I think that's how that's working out. I don't think they have a publisher for that game. I don't think they have a publisher for Outer Worlds, unless I'm incorrect. Give me 1 second here. I actually want to look that up. Because I think it's important. Publisher. It does have a publisher private division. Okay, so Microsoft is probably not going to be too worried about how that split goes, because it's already handled. But you're not going to see Microsoft pull that game from the PlayStation Store. Like, I don't think that's going to happen ever. Because of the way things work, right. The publishing deal there. I don't think technically Microsoft even owns that game. Whereas this is different because Psyonix published Rocket League. They own Rocket League.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think they're two different people playing two different ball games in the same arena. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So the fun part, like I said, is that people are review bombing Rocket League. Of course, because they're upset about it on the Epic Games Store. They're upset about it, which I think is just funny. Because when they factor in their review scores, they already said that they're just ignoring those very clearly review bombings.
Yeah.
Also, one last thing. On a totally different note, this kind of has me excited for Rocket League's future. How old is Rocket League? Rocket League's pretty old now.
Old. Yeah, it's probably 4 years old. It's got to be like 3 or it's got to be 3, like close to 3 or 4.
Yeah, Rocket League's pretty old. And this game is still very widely played.
Yeah.
So the fact that Epic Games wanted to buy them makes me feel pretty good for possibly the things to come from the future of Psyonix, whether it be continually updating Rocket League. Like Rocket League is still showing a whole bunch of promise. It's still making a whole bunch of profit. Mm-hmm. The game is showing no sign of slowing down, or possibly, I know we talked about it a long time ago. Psyonix came forward and said, we have no plans right now to make a Rocket League 2 because Rocket League, there's nothing wrong with Rocket League 1.
Rocket League is like the OG live service, and it actually worked. It is the example of how you're supposed to do a live service and how live service is supposed to work. Just to answer our question, Rocket League will be 4 years old in July of this year.
There you go.
So again, old. It's running the way it's intended to, and I think Epic is very interested in live services, and we've seen that they're very good at handling live services. I'm not even certain, don't quote me on this, but I'm not even certain that when you see Rocket League come to the Epic store that you'll have to pay for it. I'm not even certain of that. I think it would be I think it would be a very bold move of them to make it free to play like Fortnite. They know how to monetize games, and Rocket League's monetized already, right? It has season passes, it has crates, it has keys.
It has season passes, it has loot tiers, it has keys.
Right. So I think it would be a bold move. I'm not saying this is what I think will happen, but I think it would be the boldest move if they were just like, yeah, sorry we removed it from Steam, but it's free to play on Epic. I think. Well,
they're not going to remove it from Steam. I don't think they'll remove it from Steam as soon as it comes out on the Epic Games Store.
I think so
they'll
either.
Give it some time.
Yeah, in case you want to grab it and buy it, because they've made it pretty clear that they're not trying to piss people off in the PC space any more than they already have. So.
Oh no, I think they've already come to the conclusion that there's nothing they can do about it. People are pissed off in the PC space. Yeah. This just goes to show how passionate some PC players are. We are seeing their wrath.
Yeah,
during this Epic Games Store debate.
They get very upset. But I think we've covered all the points that we need to on this, so I'm gonna move forward if that's okay with you.
Please do. Take us to our last piece of news.
Second to last.
I'm sorry.
There was some debacle with the Borderlands 3 gameplay reveal and how the game will handle microtransactions. I wrote this headline incorrect, so I made up my own headline. During the gameplay stream for Borderlands 3, Gearbox CEO Randy Pitchford announced that the game, quote, won't have microtransactions, end quote, or, quote, microtransaction-y free-to-play junk, end quote. By the way, I have seen the video. That is 100% what he said. Followed up by saying that there would be all kinds of fun customizations like heads and skins. He went on to elaborate there would be no loot boxes or premium currency. Important for this story. Creative director for Borderlands 3, however, Paul Sage, confirmed to Game Informer that they would be selling, quote, cosmetics. Randy Pitchford did not appreciate being displayed this way and went on to make multiple tweets saying that even though he said there would be no microtransactions, he felt he was pretty clear that he meant free-to-play elements like premium currency and loot boxes. Quote, players will have the option to purchase certain cosmetic items like character, vehicle, and weapon skins, but none of these purchases would be considered pay-to-win or impacting on the gameplay like weapons or actual gear, end quote. And so the big discussion has now become, what are microtransactions?
No, it's not a discussion at all.
That's what they're trying to make the discussion to be, is that are loot boxes and premium currency microtransactions only, or are skins microtransactions? And it's like, dude, they're all microtransactions. Like they're all microtransactions. They're all transactions.
I'm seeing it from both points of view. I think that the fact that I've also watched the same thing when I read about this a few days ago, and I watched the exact same thing, and he says no microtransactions. It won't have microtransactions. You can't come. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate the fact that you can just buy the cosmetics directly.
Right.
I appreciate that you can just buy the cosmetics directly, no chance and no anything. Just you like this skin, go ahead and buy it. Like that's awesome. But that was still wrong to say that it won't have microtransactions, because by definition of what a microtransaction is, you're monetizing a portion of the game after you sell the game.
Mm-hmm.
That's a microtransaction. I would agree. That's exactly what this is. You want this skin? You will have to pay us money.
Right.
After you have bought the game to get this skin. That's a microtransaction. The game will have microtransactions. It won't have pay to win elements, which is awesome, which is of course nice. It won't have loot boxes, which is nice. But his wording is all on him. Yeah. That is just poor wording on his part.
He should have just taken the loss on this one and been like, all right, look, I made a mistake. I'm sorry. I meant these things. What I said was microtransactions. I see why everybody is confused and upset, but this is what we're doing, blah, 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 and just move forward from there. There was no reason for him to really like throw a tantrum about it. But at the same point, like, how do I put this? He's the same guy that said Alien Colonial Marines was good. So like, you know what I mean? You gotta walk a fine line here. I understand where he's coming from, of like, he feels like he got fucked over by he's one of those guys that's like, the press hates me, they're mean to me. And it's like, well, I mean, if you would just word things a little bit better.
This is all on you.
Yeah, people wouldn't have to say this. And there was no reason for him to get upset about it. Like, I mean, maybe if people came at him and were like, you lied to us, blah, 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 you're an asshole, like something like that, like then I could see why he would be upset, because then he could point to the article and be like, see what you did? You know what I mean? But I don't think that's really the case here, because Borderlands is one of those series that's just universally loved. I've never heard anyone talk poorly about Borderlands, ever. Even if it
not until it got exclusive to the Epic Games Store.
Yeah, that's true. Until that happened, actually. So like, I don't know. I don't. The fear mongering tactic that's been happening lately is they're trying to move the goalposts of what a microtransaction is, because it is true they are moving away from the word microtransaction. They're using different terms now. Because
it's gotten to be a slur.
Yeah,
it's when you pay for something in a game after you paid for the game. It's a microtransaction.
Right. Well, I think the issue is more so that we've seen so many people abuse microtransactions that it's become a dirty word. Like I never had a problem with skins. I had a problem when it was you pay $60 for a game and you don't get any skins and you have to buy all the skins. That's when I'm like, come on, you could have given us a few skins. Like, because that's how we grew up though. Like, we grew up and costumes and skins and stuff like that were just in the game. And I know that's like a nostalgia filled argument, and I get they want to make money. I don't have a problem with that, but like, be reasonable about it. Cause like, some skin packs are like $5 and some are 99 cents. You know what I mean? And it's all the same shit. It's a wrap. It's nothing like extravagant. So I think that it's just a matter of wording things correctly and being honest about what you're selling. I think people are way more upfront with you, and they're okay with it if they don't feel like they're getting ripped off. Like, I think that's really the issue, is a lot of people feel ripped off when it comes to microtransactions, and that's why they get so upset about it.
I can agree with that. Yeah. They'll try and say things like, oh, well, we're not sure whether we're going to add further monetization or things like that to try and avoid the word microtransaction. But it's a microtransaction. Anything you're charging us for, that, I mean, I guess you could take DLC out of it, or expansions. I think you can take out of that. You can disclude from microtransactions. I think personally they're very large things. They're not. Yeah.
It depends.
But microtransactions, like tossing a skin here or there and charging money for it, that's a microtransaction.
I would say like individual maps. Like, if Call of Duty were to sell individual maps instead of a map pack, I would consider that a microtransaction. Like, if they were like, I can agree with that. $2 for a map, then I would say that's a microtransaction. But if they were like, here's a map pack, like they always do, then I'd be like, okay, that's DLC. So, you know, it's just a matter of like having clear lines on what's what. So it's like, here's the thing with microtransaction and loot boxes. I never considered loot boxes the same thing as microtransactions. Like, yeah, it is a microtransaction, but I always found it way more egregious than if I could just buy a skin. you know.
Loot boxes, I consider loot boxes a microtransaction because, well, exactly for the fact they
Right.
want you to spend money on something and not guarantee what you're going to get. And
Just
until
give you
recently, they didn't even have to tell you the statistics behind it.
Yeah,
because there were items in their loot box that they specifically had a lower the things that people actually want to have a lower chance to get out of the loot box.
Right. As it is.
So the people would just have to pay for more of them.
Right. The higher best rewards are always going to be low percent chances.
Mm-hmm.
And you saw it especially bad. I don't know if you saw any videos regarding it, but the EA games, the sports games, were the ones that were like really, really bad. Like the percentages were like awful. I think it was like, it had to have been like 1 or 3%. I think, not even.
Yeah.
For like a top tier card in their packs or whatever it is. So, I don't know. I think there's much to be discussed regarding microtransactions, and it can be its own fucking podcast in and of itself. But we just keep checking in on it, making, check the pulse of it to kind of see where it's at, every now and again, because these things change very, very quickly, and so I think it's important for us to keep up to date on it. But I think that's all I got on it.
Yep, it's a microtransaction. Randy Pitchford, I'm sorry, but you need to watch your wording.
Right.
Seem like a good guy, but that's on you. Moving on to our last piece of news. Nintendo removes a game from the eShop for a code editor, quote, Easter egg, end quote. This game has been on Switch for about 2 weeks when the developer Amir Rajan announced the, quote, Easter egg. From him, quote, last week I released a dark room to the Nintendo Switch. Within the game, I also shipped a Ruby interpreter and a code editor as an Easter egg. This Easter egg effectively turns every consumer's spec Nintendo Switch into a Ruby machine. To access the code editor, all you need to do was buy a dark room, connect a USB keyboard, and press the tilde. Mm-hmm. If you're unaware, Ruby machine is a special programming tool that rather than directly trying to program what you want a computer to do, the computer learns on its own while you program.
Okay, that's
if you're unaware of what Ruby machine is, it's just another flavor of programming, basically.
That's cool.
Nintendo has since removed the game due to concerns about it being used for hacking the store. Speaking to Eurogamer, Rajan said, quote, I deeply regret how this is blown up, end quote, saying he, quote, acted alone and stupidly, end quote. He said he included it in the game to help children discover the joy of coding games. Rajan also went on to say that he made it very simplistic, quote, you can't even render an image with that damn thing, end quote. So I understand what his deal is. He didn't put it in, obviously, to be able to tamper with it, and obviously whatever Ruby machine is in there isn't capable of doing anything significant. He just added it in so that people, if they wanted to see what kind of messing around with a game is like, and I get that, but that is Nintendo said no.
Yeah, Nintendo is, how do I word this without sounding mean, I guess? Nintendo is very protective. They always have been. But they've always done it in a way that, not always, but usually they do it in a way that's not like just rude and like unreasonable, I guess is the more accurate term.
Yeah.
I understand why they would be concerned about this, but honestly, how I feel about this and what I would do if I were them is just push out a patch to all of the versions of the game that are out right now, remove the code editor from the game, and throw it back up on the store. And that's it. That's it.
I mean, they might end up just doing that.
Right.
They might end up just doing that.
When we talk about a lot of stuff in this industry, like it's just like we mentioned with Randy above, that I think he meant well, and he just worded things wrong, and then he handled the situation worse. I think here, this guy made an innocent mistake. He was trying to do something positive. He went about and said the wrong thing, and then he owned up to his mistake. And so that sucks because, like, it's from what I've read of this article, and I've seen some of his tweets. I wasn't going out looking for it. I just happened to like come across it while I was just scrolling through, and I found it. I don't remember how, but he was, and he made a statement about how he was just like, he's like, this has been like the worst week of my life, like just honestly, because like you and I do a lot of coverage on news. I've never even heard of this game until now. So like,
Right.
you know, like for him, he was just la di da di da, minding my own business, and now he's the guy who tried to hack the eShop. You know
He
what I
didn't
mean?
try to hack the eShop. It's very clear, as he
I know
already
that.
stated, it's not powerful.
Right.
It
I
was
know
just
that.
something he put in there. He just didn't think. It was something
Yeah.
that should not have been put in there.
Agreed. I wish it was something that he could have put on there. Because I get he's again, it seems like he's coming from a good place. You know, in his heart, it sounds like he had good intentions, and he just did. You know, you got to be careful because you know, good intentions can sometimes be taken advantage of by bad people. But
Exactly. I was just about to say they could just be setting an example because they
right,
don't want someone to put something else that is much more
that
powerful
is
in the game.
right, exactly. I think that's what you'll see, and I'm sure Nintendo's going to update its terms of service in terms of the way that developers have to upload. I'm sure there will be an update to that as well. Um, but they need to set the precedent, so I understand that. I don't really blame them for that. Um, I had one more point I wanted to make about it, but I can't remember what it was. It wasn't super important, but just like, oh, my point was that if you wanted to hack the Switch, there are way better ways to do it than this. I think that
Yeah.
was my point, is that it's already, every time the Switch gets an update, they crack it within like 2 weeks. So like, you know, it's if you really want to hack the Switch, you'll find a way to hack the Switch, and it's not going to be through this game you bought on the eShop. So, but again, I think this is more about, like you said, setting a precedent. I think it's Nintendo being like, we're not going to allow this in case anybody else tries to sneak it in, you know. But it's
Right.
unfortunate for everybody involved. So I'm hoping the game gets back up, and I hope when it gets back up, it you know, gets some of this press turns into, you know, positivity for him.
And one last thing. This developer, Circle Entertainment, has also published on the DSi, the 3DS, and the Wii U, all on their respective
Right.
shops. So I'm sure they'll get the benefit of the doubt. I'm sure they'll fix it and it'll go back up, no problem. At least I
Right.
hope so.
That would be my hope as well.
But anyway, that's going to be it for us this week. Mike, is there
Mhm.
anything you want to add?
No, I don't think so. In case you haven't noticed, we haven't had guests those last 2 weeks. We're still in the process of growing, so bear with us. Going forward, it should be pretty consistent. But the person we were supposed to host with last week, he needed to buy some equipment, and so unfortunately, that's taken longer than expected. So going forward, it should be a 3-man show. But again, you know, we're in the process of growing pains, so just bear with us as we do.
And also, the more we grow, there might be other people doing the show other than just the two of us. We'll be experimenting a little bit, seeing what formulas work, what don't work. So please bear with us while we try to figure out what the future of Ambassadors of Gaming will be.
Of course.
But anyway, try and check us out at least once a week. That's how often we try and do this. But we are going to go ahead and get out of here. I'm Ambassador Chris.
And I'm Ambassador Michael.
And we'll see you next time.
Goodbye, friends.
We're gone.